What is going on, everyone? SVT Zach here, and today we are going to talk about the 1995 SVT Mustang Cobra R. So, for those of you who aren't familiar, the Cobra R, the R model, there were only 250 of these made in 1995. They all came in white. They all came with saddle interior. It was very basic cloth interior. Um, those of you who are into Mustangs, you've probably heard of the 2000 Mustang Cobra R. That is the red one. It's mainly known for its side exhaust and its large wing on the rear. Um, SVT, they made three different Cobra Rs. The first one was in 1993, and that was for the Fox Body Mustang. And that was red. There were only 107 of those produced. They were all in red. The second was this one here that we're going to talk about, the 95 Mustang Cobra R. There were only 250 of these produced, all in white. And then lastly, like I just said, the 2000 Cobra R, there were 300 produced, and they were all in red. So let's go ahead and dive into this this Mustang Cobra R, this SN95 body style. So the um, exterior appearance looks pretty similar to the standard Cobra. The main differences that you're going to note are the wheels and the hood. The hood is it's a cowl hood. It's a little bit larger, and they had to make it larger to fit the 351 cubic inch motor that is in it. It is the motor that came out of the Lightning, the Ford truck. And since it was larger, they had to put a larger hood on there to basically so that it could fit. The second thing that you may notice is the front fog lights are missing. On the Cobra R, the fog lights were removed and in place were brake cooling ducts. So it's basically ducts on each side that lead to the brakes to help cool them. And that was just one of those features that they implemented because this Mustang was meant to be a racing vehicle. And while we're on that topic, Ford actually required you to show a racing license and submit a resume in order to even get on a list or to be able to purchase this vehicle. They wanted to make sure, the SVT team wanted to make sure that you were a racer and not a collector. They wanted to make sure that these cars were going to be driven. And some people, were able to work around that, and collectors did get their hands on them. But the SVT team did, implement these certain strategies to try to make sure that these cars were going to be driven and raced, because that is why they built them. So I thought that was a pretty cool and interesting fact for this 95 Cobra R is the SVT team and Ford really wanted to make sure that it was going to be raced and not put in a garage for 20 or 30 years. And as you can tell, some of you, at least those of you who are into Mustangs, there have been some popping up that have only had, 200 miles, 300 miles, so on. So some of them did slip through the cracks. Some collectors did get them and garage them, unfortunately. But, in a way, it's not unfortunate, because it's nice to see, especially in my age. I was only 5 years old when this came out. So for me to be able to see it, what it looked like brand new, I would have only been able to rely on pictures from 25 years ago. And since some of these people did garage them and they kept plastics on them, um, I'm able to see what this vehicle looked like from the factory, from the showroom floor. Um, so let's just kind of go over some of the different statistics for this 95 Mustang Cobra R. So as far as suspension goes, um, the Cobra R did have a very stiffer spring rate. Um, the springs on the Cobra R were progressive rate, 700, 850 pound inch in the front and 200, 260 pound inch in the rear, um, compared to a 400 pound front on the standard Cobra and a 160 pound front on the, or rear rather, on the standard Cobra. And another interesting detail is the strut tower bar. So the 95 Cobra R did receive the front strut tower bar and some chassis stiffening options. And those were kind of race related to kind of go along with, the um, purpose of the vehicle, and that is, to be tracked and to be raced. Um, the Cobra R did also come from the factory with rear adjustable struts or shocks, um, which was they were from Coney, which was another added um, plus for this vehicle in terms of racing. One thing that I did read on this that was a little interesting. So the Cobra R came with a 20 gallon fuel cell. Um, and that is because on the 93 Cobra R, a lot of people who use those to race were complaining about the forced extra fuel stops in endurance races that cost them time and position. So Ford made up for that, and they installed um, from the factory this custom 20-gallon rubberized Kevlar fuel cell to kind of make up for those the issues that the 93 Cobra R had. Like I said before, this vehicle, there was only 250 of them made. The facility that built the vehicles built all 250 of them in 3 days. The auto workers volunteered to work 24-hour shifts to get these cars done on time, which I thought was pretty cool. So within a 3-day period, all 250 of these vehicles were built. And that's a pretty cool statistic there. And then in terms of the engine too, I thought this was another cool statistic. All the 250 engines, the 351 cubic inch Windsor motors, were built at Windsor Engine Facility in Canada. They were all built on February 19th, 1995, in a period of only 6.2 hours. So they got this vehicle done in a fairly quick time. Granted, there were only 250 of them, but I thought those were some cool statistics to kind of include in this video. So let's talk about some of the performance on this this Cobra R compared to the standard Cobra. So on 0 to 60 time on this 95 Cobra R was 5.2 seconds as tested by Motor Trend, compared to 6.3 seconds on the standard Cobra. So there was a 1.1 second improvement on 0 to 60, which is a huge improvement in my opinion. The 60 to 0 braking on the standard Cobra was 140 feet. On the Cobra R was 109 feet. So a 60 to 0 braking distance improvement of 31 feet, which is also very big. And as far as the quarter mile goes, this 95 Cobra R ran the quarter mile in 13.8 seconds at 102 miles per hour, compared to the standard Cobra at 14.1 seconds at 101. So this car was definitely no slouch. That 351 Windsor really helped it out in terms of performance, and for it to be able to lay down a 13.8, which is actually faster than the 96 to 98 Cobras. So very impressive times there in the 0 to 60 and the quarter mile, as well as braking. One of my favorite features, well, I guess I should say two of my favorite features on the exterior of the 95 Cobra R are the rims and the hood. And they seem to be some of the favorite features for quite a few SN95 enthusiasts, as those are two mods that a lot of SN95 owners put on their GTs or their standard Cobras as an aftermarket mod. And I don't blame them. I think I'd like to get a pair of those Cobra R wheels, the replicas at least, to put on my 97 Cobra, as well as the hood. I think that hood is very slick. It's aggressive looking, and I do like it. Here's a good photo of the rear of the 95 Cobra R, and if you look around the exhaust, you can see that 25 or the 20 gallon rather fuel cell. One thing also to note is that since it is a 95, it does have the horizontal taillights, which is I think these 94, 95 are some of the only Mustangs that ever have the horizontal taillights like that. Most years of the Mustang were vertical taillights. Here's another shot of the front, and you can see the fog lights missing again, which, like I said previously, in place of fog lights on the 95 Cobra R, there are brake ducts to help keep the brakes cool for those of the drivers who are racing the Mustang. There's another shot of the front with the galloping pony. And here's the 5.8 liter 351 Windsor. You can see the strut tower brace there going across it. Um, like I said, the motor does stick up quite a bit, and that's why they had to install the larger hood on the Cobra R. And I don't recall if I mentioned it or not, but this 351 Windsor, it put out 300 horsepower and 365 foot-pounds of torque. And that is compared to the standard Cobra that only put out 240 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque. So this Cobra R did have 60 more horsepower and 80 more foot-pounds of torque than the standard Cobra, which is a pretty impressive gain over the standard Cobra. I mean, this like I said, this thing was no slouch. It had a lot of power, and SVT built it that way so that it could be a competitor on the racetrack. One thing that I wanted to mention too that was interesting about this 95 Cobra R was that it had an upgraded two-row aluminum radiator, and also had an oil cooler and a water-to-air power steering cooler, which was not on the Mustang's previous. So two kind of or I should say a couple interesting things that the Cobra R had. Um, that was different than the standard Cobra and the other Mustangs previous. Here's a shot of the interior. And one thing about the 95 Cobra R is they did strip it of all the typical amenities that a vehicle would have. If you look on the right side of the photo there, you'll see that there's a block-off plate where the radio would go. The 95 Cobra R, similar to the 2000 Cobra R and the 93 Cobra R, it did not have a radio or stereo system. And that was in an effort to reduce weight, which is kind of funny because the 95 Cobra R really wasn't much lighter than the standard 95 Cobra. I want to say it was only about 30 to 60 pounds lighter um, than the standard Cobra, and that has somewhat to do, I guess, with the larger fuel tank and the larger motor. But nonetheless, it was lighter than the standard Cobra, which did help its performance. If you look to the left there, where the door handle is, you'll note that there are no power windows. It is a manual crank window. Um, and the only power feature in the vehicle actually were the mirrors. You can see it up right above the door handle. You can see the switches that are in the standard position for an SN95 for the mirrors. The mirrors were power. But the seats, everything else, the locks, those were all manual. There were no power features on those items. Here's another picture of the interior. As you can see, there was no leather. All 250 1995 Cobra Rs came with cloth seats, and they were all the interiors were saddle. And that was in an effort to reduce weight. And also, SVT and Ford, they probably figured that these seats were going to be removed and replaced with racing seats anyways. So why waste the money on leather seats or power seats? If you look closely on the right side of the photo, you can kind of see the back seat. One thing that they did on the 95 Cobra R was they removed the back seat, which is something they also did on the 2000 Cobra R. 5 years later, but that was also in an effort to reduce weight, and you don't need a back seat in a race car, is what I'm assuming they were thinking. Here's a photo of, oops, let me go back there. Here is a photo of the interior of a 95 Cobra R, and all of the plastics are still on the seats and the floors. So this is one of those that slipped through the cracks, and a collector got a hold of it and didn't drive it much, unfortunately. But like I said, it's not always a bad thing. It's cool to see these cars in mint condition, but it's also kind of sad because they didn't get to experience what their purpose was. And for the Cobra R, its purpose was a race car. Here's another shot of the interior. This is from the passenger side. You can see where the cup holder or the ashtray would be. Sorry about that. The switches, like where the fog light would be, those are gone, as there are no fog lights. You can see the radio delete panel in there because there was no radio or stereo system. And this one is in very good shape, like I said, because it did have all the original plastics on it. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm sure I probably left some things out, but I just wanted to kind of cover the 95 Cobra R. It's very interesting, and these Cobra Rs are really intriguing to me because factories don't really build cars with as few amenities as these Cobra Rs had. And I kind of wish that they would bring that back and that the SVT team would come back and create another Cobra R. Um, it's kind of hard to compete with a 700 plus horsepower Shelby GT 500 that has, power everything, full interior and air conditioning. But for the enthusiasts out there like me, and for the ones who race out there like me, it would be cool for them to reintroduce a very standard and basic vehicle that only a true enthusiast would enjoy. I personally removed the radio and stereo equipment. I removed the air conditioning from my 97 Cobra in an effort to, remove weight, but also because I like driving my car and with the windows down, listening to the engine and the motor. I didn't feel a need to have speakers or a radio while I was driving it. So I really wanted to just enjoy um, the sound of the motor and just be in that moment with the vehicle and not have a radio system or air conditioning or anything like that. So like I said, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If there's anything that you think should be added, comment down below. Any kind of cool facts about the 95 Cobra R that I may have missed, um, or anything like that. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned something about the 95 Cobra R, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks.